Shalom, shalom,
Shabbat shalom,
Shabbat
family.
We faulted on the music, didn't
I'm not. Look,
we? Nine
it's a shame because what I got in my head is what you just yelled in my ear. It's fired up.
Oh, how's everybody doing? How was y'all week?
Dang.
All right, y'all, let's do a quick sound check. Can you hear us all right? Can we get a 7 if you can hear us? Hallelujah. Shalom, sis. How you doing? How's the family? The little ones.
Boys.
Yeah.
Shabbat shalom.
Shalom, Aki Dawid. Shalom.
Big up.
Shalom, Koti Gabora.
Koti.
Good to see y'all again.
Right.
Hold on. Thank you. Oh, family. Man. I know that we all, look, there's a scripture that say that there's no thing that we go through that is not common to your brothers and sisters. I'm paraphrasing, probably butchering. But I know if y'all feel the way we feel going through these weeks, and it's not that it's not a bad week, it's not a bad week or nothing like that. Everything's all good, but it's just, man, I love when the Shabbat gets here. Be looking forward to the Shabbat. And I know y'all gotta feel the same way. Y'all gotta feel the same way. Shalom, Koti Latasha. I see you talking to the little ones in the background. She got it on mute so we can't see her. She fussing over there.
Yeah, she fussing. Koti Angela.
Shalom, Koti Angela.
Oh, she fussing real good. Look at her.
It's all good. It's all good. Ooh, family. Good to be with y'all again. We're gonna pray, fam, that we don't have any internet issues tonight. And we can get on through this in a smooth fashion. Otherwise, we might have to think about switching to an upgraded version of this, or I've been hearing about YardStream. Somebody else is using YardStream, so I might check into that. I don't think it's the program though. I think it's the internet.
It's the internet.
The internet.
We could use a miracle and not have internet connection. Like, have you ever tried a miracle? Yeah, but we ain't got internet. So.
Gang. Yeah, but you have no internet. So. What are you gonna do?
Yep.
Let's see. How many people we got in the room? Let's see. We're gonna wait a few minutes, so go ahead and kick it off. All right, family. We're gonna ease our way on into this. So,
Koti Christine said she won't be able to make it tonight, but she's gonna be here tomorrow.
Okay.
Y'all keep her in prayer. She just lost her mom.
So sorry.
Yeah, that's hard. That's hard.
Definitely keeping you in prayer, sis.
She said she'll be here tomorrow, though. She said she'll be here till in tomorrow.
They don't know who the salvation is.
Dang.
Wow.
And back to back, because she just lost her sister. Was it her sister? Was it her sister she just lost? Yeah. I want to say, yeah, it was her sister. Yeah. So now she's carrying them on. Something.
It's hard to know the mind of Yah and the timing of things, you know. Yeah. We here, sis, if you need us.
What's she still? She's staying there. Look at this staying there. You
Which
look
one?
up, Anaria. You look up at your children just looking at you like this. They study you.
Studying, yeah.
Children always study you. Always. You be on something completely different, and your children studying you.
It's amazing because years later, your children bring up stuff and
I
you
know.
barely remember it, but it's a big thing in their memory.
Yeah.
And it's not just children. I've had cousins do that too. One of my younger cousins, we talk fairly often recently, and he be, man, cuz, I remember when you did this, and I remember when you did that, and you took me here, and you took me there, and I'm like, oh, cuz, I got years that's a blur in my memory, but I'm glad that you had fun.
I was just talking to one of the coaches. Speaking of blur, I was just talking to one of the coaches about that marijuana.
Yeah, I'm gonna say it was only marijuana for the purpose of this conversation.
And
let's go with that.
I say, so it's, Shlomo, like I don't know nobody that was on that marijuana like Shlomo. What my grandma call it dope.
Yeah, my family called it dope.
Always smoking that dope. I said, you ain't gonna be able to smoke that dope and get to the kingdom. He told me that ain't dope, it's herb. That dope. Always smoking that dope.
No, listen.
Somebody left the ice out.
Somebody got me. My father got me one time. Walked into my room. I was getting ready for school, and it wasn't often that my father was home when I was on the. Well, no, he was home. It wasn't often my father was awake when I was on the way to school, but he came into my room and was kind of chastising me about. He was getting on me about some things, and in the middle of getting on me about one thing, he stopped and looked at me and was like, I know you've been smoking that dope too. And I was like, huh? No, I don't smoke no dope.
I don't smoke no dope.
I don't smoke no dope. And then the further we got in the conversation, I'm like, oh, weed. Oh, yeah.
That was me. That was me.
But, at our age, we 80s babies and, we came up teenagers in the 90s in the 2000s. Yeah, when you said dope, I was thinking crack, cocaine, heroin. I'm like, oh no, I don't smoke no dope.
Yeah.
But yeah, we ain't supposed to be smoking none.
My grandma
y'all
say,
know that now.
Y'all out there on them corners, hoeing and smoking dope. I'm like, wait. Everybody was hoeing and smoking dope.
No.
They hoeing and smoking dope.
No.
Goodness. I'm like, hoeing, great. Ain't nobody ever. This is just hanging out, talking about life and stuff, dreams.
But
stuff.
here's the crazy thing though, right? Just to, I mean, it's we entering into the Shabbat Shalom. We thought they was over exaggerating, but in all honesty, even if we wasn't okay, I was guilty of smoking weed. I can't say I wasn't guilty. I was smoking weed. I was drinking alcohol in high school. Right after high school, I was popping pills, all that. You probably wasn't prostituting, as they were saying, but I mean, like, what are we presenting ourselves as? We like somebody. I saw somebody posted on Instagram that said this father was talking to. Let me cut this off real quick. Let's bring it back to Shabbat worthiness. I mean, it's a conversation. It's worth having. Said father talked to his daughter. She got a new iPhone. He asked her, I'm paraphrasing all this, y'all might have seen the same post, so I may butcher it, but I'm gonna get the sentiment. He asked her, was that a new case? You saw it?
Yeah.
Yeah, was it a new case? She said, yeah. He said, did they require you to get a case? She said, no, I just got it to protect the phone. Was that gonna devalue the phone? No, it's gonna make the value of the phone hold strong. Are you sure it's not gonna make the phone, less
value, decrease the
let's
value.
decrease the value, make it not as attractive. She said, no, I like the case. I like the cover. I enjoy that. And plus I know that, covering the phone is going to allow the phone to hold its value. And he say, so, I mean, I get that, but if I was to ask you, about covering your body, you wouldn't have looked at it in the same light. You would have thought that it was something different. But to cover yourself is to hold your value. So I know I'm butchering that because you saw the same post I did. But the thing is, we looked at the elders like they was tripping because the girl was out there with short shorts. I mean, she wasn't doing nothing. She was just out there in short shorts. You know what I'm saying? The apple bottoms and the spaghetti straps and all that.
My granny
driving us crazy.
That's what my granny used to say.
Because she knew.
Look, I go out there, boy, I was halter top queen. I mean, I wear on track, had a little waistline or whatnot, had a little six pack. Halter top queen, always. And my granny say, what's her favorite thing? I forgot. I just had it. And it just went. But my grandma, she just, in her day, she used to say, how did it come to this?
Right.
How did it come to this? She say, in my day, a young lady, she actually made a man work for it. It was an honor. It was a it was something that he not won, but something that he earned to be able to view her body.
Left something to the imagination.
Yeah, she say now, you things, she used to call us things. You things, y'all just hoeing and smoking dope. That's all y'all do.
Look, things was nice. My great grandmother used to call women heifers.
Oh yes, everybody was a heifer.
Heifer, like a cow.
Everybody was a heifer.
Yeah. All right, fam. We're gonna jump on into
come to
this.
Latasha hand up.
Oh, come to Latasha. Come on up.
Oh no, I was gonna say my grandma used to tell us we not allowed to wear red nail polish or red lipstick because that was for the streetwalkers.
Oh yeah.
Lady in red, huh?
Then she used to, and then she used to tell us, she said, well, why would they buy the cow when you already giving out the milk for free?
Yep.
I heard that one too.
Yep.
And my struggle now is like,
I used to be like, what?
With all, excuse me, fam. My struggle now is with all these boys, and trying to get them to remember that, you got sisters. I got daughters, but you got sisters, right? And so, as you going out into the world and you courting and whatnot, you got to treat these girls the same way that you want somebody to treat your sister. You know what I'm saying? And so, it don't matter whether or not they know better or not, whether or not they was raised in the truth or not, you raised in the truth. So because you raised in the truth, you need to treat her the same way. In other words, like I'll be telling Min Lee, treat her like I'm her father. You know what I'm saying? Need some daylight in between y'all.
And then most importantly, when you come in this truth, you got to reach back for your people. You know what I'm saying? You got to reach back for those who don't know any better. You know what I mean? Right. I mean, Todayah for his mercy, because if not for his mercy, your sister here, man, so once he pull you out,
right,
then you got to reach back and pull as many out as you can, because how many of us know that in there that's a dark place to be.
Yeah,
that's a dark place
all
to
of
be.
us should.
And we got
calling ourselves coming out. All of us should. Have a similar testimony.
If Abiyah free you and you get out the muck, what I like to call the gutter, reach back.
The coach answered that. Yeah, I heard that one too.
Me too.
Nothing but legs and jail open. past a certain hour of the night. That's right. That's right.
Yeah.
You're supposed to be home.
Yeah.
Dang.
Yeah. Reach back and pull your, help somebody else get out. Help somebody else get free.
Yep.
Because he found us worthy of it. And I mean, hallelujah for that.
Past 9, sis.
Past 9, yep.
Yeah, well. Depending on what city you live
can
in.
I wanted to say, I can't see what raised my hand, but it's like I try to leave little nuggets. It's like leaving a little trail, like breadcrumbs, instead of, just hitting them right there with the truth, like blah, 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 blah. I just, I might send a little YouTube video or I try to leave a little nugget, because a lot of people, when you try to come to them, they, you in a cult, all that stuff. So I just try to slowly bring them into it.
Yeah.
I got such shalom when I learned what that scripture mean about wasting your pearls on swine. And so once I learned what that meant, I got shalom. I lost the urge, or because when you first come to truth, you think that you gotta go and you gotta just tell it to anybody who just, hey, you on the corner, you doping it home. And look, let me tell you something. You know what I'm saying? When the truth is, Abiyad guide those to him. He gonna guide people to you.
That's right.
You know what I mean? And you can tell, you may be, the other day I was in the store.
It must be funny. You couldn't even get it out.
I know. I was in the store. No. I was reading because is your baby in the room? She just that's a shame. She log on to Shabbat study and got to put on headphones.
Yeah,
she knows
because Rebby might let one go. Shotgun might blast. It's a good spray.
Oh, I am so embarrassed and ashamed. I'm just so ashamed. Go ahead, Cozy. Go ahead, Code. I'm ashamed. Go ahead with your. Go ahead. I lost my will to continue.
It's okay. I got that word bad too. I got it too. So I got you. I feel you. But what I was gonna say was, what I've learned to now say, because I'm getting tired of getting put out of places, I just say, you know what? It's not meant for you. That's why you don't understand. It wasn't meant for you. And I just I'm learning to keep it pushing now. You know what I'm saying? Like you ain't supposed to understand it. So I'm not gonna go back and forth with you. You know what I'm saying? Because if it was meant, it would have piqued your interest and we would have had a discussion. Yep. We wouldn't be sitting here arguing that the world came through by explosion.
Right.
Fisherman of men, my sister. Right. A fisherman of men.
Yeah, I think you're 100% right. Yeah. I had to learn that too, sis. Yeah. Like I was scratching my head because of the number of people that I was running into that was telling me they was Egyptian or Cometian. And I was telling Reb, and this was probably about 4 or 5 years ago, I had a head scratch moment. I was like, you know what? I'm gonna stop telling them they not.
I know, because
maybe they are. Maybe they are Egyptian. I don't know. If you feel that strongly about it, maybe that is your heritage.
You remember the boy that told me in the kitchen
that he was a nigga?
Yeah. That boy, he said, I'm a who?
She
what?
told him he was Israelite. He said, I'm a nigga.
I'm a nigga. I said, what? And she
Look, I had to make that face. I'm like,
I'm
okay.
Like, excuse me. And he was serious.
But you know what, though? I just was having this discussion with my niece today, and I was saying that I'm looking at it now like it's designed like that because the truth is starting to come out. Many more of us are starting to ask questions and are starting to dig. Now, you think about it. 10 years ago, they were trying to convince us that Egypt was white and wasn't a part of Africa.
That's true.
Now you have those same scholars that are like, okay, Egypt was black. It's like they trying to give us Egypt as are really Israelites. You feel me? They like, okay, y'all Egyptians, let's give us that. And we so hungry for some history beyond slavery that we're taking Egypt as a consolation prize.
Oh my goodness.
I love the way you phrase that.
Mm.
As a consolation prize.
Mm.
I love the way you phrase that because it's about a heritage and it's about an inheritance. So it's part of the curses when we understand that he said, you are going to give up your inheritance. Then Egypt could only be a consolation prize because the ultimate prize was your inheritance. What was supposed to be passed down to you from father to son. All right, fam. I apologize. I was looking up a scripture just related to us being taught by Yahuwah. You know, people, I think that us as humans, as mankind, we get caught up in this, you know, this YouTube video sharing, Zoom, sharing knowledge and all of that, and we can allow it to puff us up individually. And scripture is very clear that Yahuwah is doing the teaching, you know. And you said something a minute ago, you and I think it was, I don't remember if it was Antoinette or Latasha, but it made me think about that scripture that says all of them will be taught by Yahuwah. So that's the scripture I was looking up, but it's something that I always keep in the back of my mind, and I feel it necessary to say every time I think about it is Yahuwah is the one that's doing the teaching. The Ruach is the one that's doing the teaching, the edifying. No, it was you, Okoti Antoinette, yeah, because you were talking about just dropping those nuggets, right? And you know, when I'm gonna speak for myself, when we were new in the truth and we were really trying to shove this down people's throats, it didn't go well.
Nope.
Often. Because you wind up in arguments and heated debates, not good debates. You know, there's good debates when it's like, you know, everybody is benefiting, it's shalom field and all that. There are good debates, but these often ended up in heated debates where nobody was taking any food. What were you saying? Sometimes screaming matches, not often with me and a king. We don't do too much screaming at each other. That turned into something else.
Except that remember that day we was at the
where?
The day we was at the park, and
what? Nobody screaming with
don't say his name out in public.
But that's what you're talking about.
Like Candyman, we don't say that.
What nobody screaming though?
My man, what was that he kept saying? What was that phrase he kept?
Watch this,
because goyim and goyim.
Yeah, because goy mean what? What does goy mean?
Goyim. And I'm like,
I couldn't tell you to this day the point he was trying to make.
That must be deep.
And I know what goy means and what goyim means, and I still couldn't tell you the point he was trying to make at that particular junction.
My man said going is going, which equals going.
But like you were saying, Big Sis, when it's Ruach filled, you feel it because it flows, and the edification is there, and you can tell when somebody wants to hear what you're sharing. And it reminds me of another scripture. The scripture says, "Don't worry about what to say." That he's going to put the words in your mouth. I'm paraphrasing that as well. And that's, I believe that's how it happens. And you just dropping those seeds or those nuggets, as you phrased it, and then Yahuwah come back and water it. And it's not you, and it's not me, and it's not anybody who call themselves a moray or whatever, if they doing any good at all. There's a whole moray debate. Who is the one that's doing the watering?
It's overcoming your own vanity. You know what I mean? You just, you know, people. It's people's relationship with the Most High. Most of the time, you know, you drop the seed, they reject it in their heart, or say something along the lines of "that's not for me." I almost get hit by a car, come back like maybe it's for me, maybe I should think about it.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Something happens, like I've seen it 100 times. Something happens where they get the knock on the door. You know, they receive the knock on the door. And the knock on the door simply is you hear with your ears about the good news. That's your knock. That's the knock. So they get the knock on the door, and they're at the door wondering if they should open it or not. You know, they got their hand on the knob, but they wondering if they should open it. And this is when those two spirits really battle for their soul, because in one hand you got the one spirit, oh, this is a cult, this new, this different, we don't do different, you know what I'm saying? Your mama and them and your grandmama and them, your grandmama and grandma and them, you know what I'm saying? And then on the other hand, you got that other voice saying, but you feel this is something to this in your in your spirit, like this was us, remember, you, like, don't you remember, you know? And so, you know, everybody's journey is their journey.
And I'm gonna say something that that a lot of people are not gonna say, and this is something that me and Rib have talked about before. I'm reading your comment. It's wonderful when you are that spark. It is.
When you see that spark.
Or when you see that spark. Okay, I misread that. I apologize. I thought it said it's wonderful when you are that spark. It's wonderful when you see that spark. But the narcissism in each of us individually feels it's wonderful when you are that spark, right? And that's when you've turned something that's supposed to be about Yahuwah into something that's about me personally, or her personally, or you personally. And that's that juncture where, you know, me and I was talking about this week. One of our favorite movies is Devil's Advocate.
Oh yeah.
Vanity.
Fancy.
Says my favorite saying, right? So when we looking for it to be us, you know what I'm saying? And it makes you feel like I'm proud because I got them to see this, or I got them to understand that. We have to break it down and be like, no, that was y'all. You know what I'm saying? We drop seeds all over the place, right? Y'all drop seeds all over the place. I would like to believe that many of the seeds that we drop, we never even come to know personally that person came to know Yahuwah. I know that myself, seeds was dropped for me from the time that I was in grade school and grammar school. From people that I knew in grade school, high school, grade school, high school, and then in my young adult life, in my 20s, people was dropping seeds. It didn't take root until Yah decided it was time for it to take root. So those people who dropped those seeds, there's only maybe 2 or 3 people that I still knew from back then that I could go back and say, remember you told me this, remember you told me that, remember we was talking about this, I dug more into that. And this is where I'm at now. But most of those people, we didn't know each other, so they don't know. It's Yah. It was not for the esteem of that individual. It was for the esteem of the body.
And show you how slippery of a slope it is. Think about Moses. Moses, that scripture started out saying how he was the most humblest man in the world, Jack. You know what I'm saying? And got all the way that far. And got big-headed.
That's a cautionary tale, fam.
Man, straight up.
That is a cautionary tale.
Straight up. Like, and who are we compared to Moses?
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Straight up. Show you that I don't show no favoritisms. And he ain't impressed. Right. Like, you know, you get to walking around, you know, oh, that's me. Right. Me. You know, he ain't impressed.
That's not cute.
Okay, let's answer. We got some hands up.
Okay.
Go to Natasha.
Oh no, somebody else can go. I was just going to say about the chapters that was coming up, so somebody else can go.
Okay.
No, go ahead, sis. You
Okay.
got it. Go ahead.
What you saying? Let's read. Let's get to reading.
No,
Hey, let's read. Let's get to
no,
it.
I'm going. No, I was because when we no, when y'all was talking about like with the Ruach teaching, and it just made me think about previously when I read this before, like before, coming into the truth and then reading it now and just seeing it in like a totally different way, in a totally different light. And like you said, when you see the spark, it's completely different as far as like me reading it now and then when I was reading it then. And then even with like these scriptures that's coming up, and I'm not going to give it away, but when they just went, I didn't notice certain things, and then I see it now and I'm just like, oh wow,
That's yeah.
just
Yeah.
wow. And I was thinking about like with the Ruach teaching, and he's showing me like, yeah, when he's showing me like when he's talking about, because I think somebody was saying something, they was talking about the Messiah one time, somebody, and they were saying like he really wasn't really mentioned into the book of Isaiah. And I'm like, what? I'm like, I can take you all the way back to Genesis when Jacob was blessing his sons and he was telling him they was giving him the Messiah. Or I can take you back to Genesis when God told Adam and Eve that somebody's going to come and save them in 5,500 years. Like
Right.
it says it. It's just like you said, if it's not for you, you're not going to see it. But it's all like the Ruach teaching, it just awakens you and it shows you what you read before is completely different when he's actually teaching.
Yeah.
Cain.
100%. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then also it's layers to where we are at
Yeah,
in our individual understanding.
oh, this is what I wanted. Oh yeah, and this is what I wanted to ask, right? Because I was reading it, and I'm like, wait a minute, because I read it. I've probably read it. The book of Numbers is like one of my favorite books because it's just so many stories in the book of Numbers. That's like my favorite book between Numbers and Isaiah. That's my favorite. I know you always say Ezekiel is your favorite, but
That's me.
Numbers and Isaiah is my favorite books. Yeah, like that's my favorite books. And I was reading it, and I was reading it again. I'm like, wait a minute. Balaam prayed to Yahuwah, but he still was doing sorcery. But he prayed to Yahuwah, and I'm like, and I'm in my head, I'm thinking like it's only the teaching of because he came from Lot, and he's a Moabite, and he came from Lot, and Lot taught his daughters. So he, they was taught who they didn't know the name, they who Yahuwah was, and he prayed to him. But I'm like, sometimes, like you said, it's a slippery slope. But what?
Yeah. Yeah, you're right. Hey fam. That was a little choppy, but we got most of what you were saying. It was a little choppy. It's our internet, it's not y'all's. But yeah, you're right. I think that he knew, and it's interesting because a lot of us, can you think about like even before we came into the truth, like having one foot in the world or doing what you're doing, but then like when something get really serious, you always knew, oh, let me come back to what I was raised in.
Come on back.
Yeah, let me get back to what I was raised in because I know if it got really serious, I need to stop playing around with that.
Yeah.
Because that's kind of how that feel, or kind of how I felt. Lot was that, I mean, not Lot, Balaam was dabbling in some stuff that he became very good at, renowned for. But like he still knew that it was no power in that compared to what Abraham and the Israelites believed in. But yeah, we ain't gonna spoil it too much because we finna read it.
Balaam was a snake. Balaam was all about, what by Balaam, what I'm saying, even from the beginning. You know what I'm saying? When Balaam went from kissing up under Pharaoh to take his throne, it's always to take the throne. You know what I'm saying? Balaam was never, to take his throne, to get in his own kingdom. Moses came and snatched that from him. You know what I
Right.
mean?
Right.
Balaam was a snake.
Okay.
Snake.
We had 2 other hands up.
Yep, Akoti Antoinette and
Okay.
Akoti Latash. No, Leslie.
Okay. Antoinette, were you next?
Go ahead. Yeah, y'all go ahead. I'm ready to read.
Okay, Coach Leslie, what you got?
Yeah, the same. I was just going to comment on what we were talking about before about the spark, but I'm ready to read too. I'm ready to get into it.
Okay,
Get
all
to the
right.
good stuff.
Without further ado, then we're gonna go and jump into it. Yeah,
22.
Cain says most intellects don't believe in him, but they fear him just the same. You are 100% right. If they smart. If they smart. Now, that's some dummies that don't fear him. And I almost feel sorry for them.
I'm reading first.
Almost,
My turn to go first.
but not quite. Look at this one trying to read.
This is my turn to go first. He me. And it's a good chapter too. This is a good one.
All 3 of these good. Okay, let's do it.
Okay. All right.
Numbers 22.
Numbers 22. Okay. And the children of Israel set out encamped in the desert plains of Moab beyond the Yarden of Jericho. And Balak, son of Zippor, saw all that Israel had done to the Amorites. And Moab was exceedingly afraid of the people because they were many. And Moab was in dread because of the children of Israel. And Moab said to the elders of Midian, now this company is licking up all that is around us, as an ox licks up grass of the field. Now Balak, son of Zippor, was sovereign of the Moabites at that time. And he sent a messenger to Balaam, son of Beor of Pethor, which is near the river in the land of the sons of his people, to call him, saying, see, a people have come from Mitzrayim. See, they have covered the surface of the land and are settling next to me.
Cover the surface of the land. I mean, it's probably a whole lot of them. Like ants covering the surface of a okay. Goodness, they were scared.
And now, please come at once. Curse these people for me, for they are too strong for me. It might be that I strike them and drive them out of the land. For I know that he whom you bless is blessed, and he whom you curse is cursed. So my man said Balaam was such a powerful sorcerer that whoever Balaam blessed was blessed, and whoever Balaam cursed. So not Yah, but Balaam. Okay. And the elders of Moab and the elders of Midian left with the fees for divination in their hand, and they came to Balaam and spoke the words of Balak to him.
So he got paid for this.
Right. It was about that paper. What fortune teller sorcerer ain't about that paper? You know what I'm saying? They ain't gonna say a thing till you put a bill on that table. You know? And he said to them, spend the night here, and I shall bring back word to you as Yahuwah speaks to me. So the heads of Moab stayed with Balaam. And Elohim came to Balaam and said, who are these men with you? And Balaam said to Elohim, Balak, son of Zippor, sovereign of Moab, has sent to me, saying, see, a people has come out of Mitzrayim and covered the surface of the land. Come now, curse them for me. It might be that I am able to fight against them and drive them out. And Elohim said to Balaam, do not go with them. You do not curse the people, for they are blessed. And Balaam rose up in the morning and said to the heads of Balak, go back to the land, for Yahuwah has refused to allow me to go with you. Sorry about that. Okay. For Yahuwah has refused to allow me to go with you. And the heads of Moab arose and went to Balak and said, Balaam refuses to come with us. Then Balak again sent heads more numerous and more esteemed than they. And they came to Balaam and said to him, This is what Balak, son of Zippor, said. Do not be withheld from coming to me, please, for I esteem you very greatly, and whatever you say to me, I do. Therefore, please come, curse these people for me. And y'all know that was Balaam's weakness there, because he was all about being esteemed very greatly too.
Well, there's something else too. So, as Coach Latasha pointed out, Moab is descendant from Lot.
Mm-hmm.
So remember Lot, when Sodom and Gomorrah were destroyed, went to the hills, and him and his two daughters, when he was drunk, they slept with him and procreated. And Moab is descendant of them. So now you got Balak, who is the ruler, and Balaam, who is in his place. But Balaam is kind of reminding me of the adversary when it says the sons of Yah came before him and the adversary with him. In the sense of, although he was in rebellion, he still acknowledged and had to deal with Yah, in that he either could or could not bless anybody. So the fact that earlier in this chapter, as we have read, it said that who Balaam blessed was blessed and who Balaam cursed was cursed, he still had to deal with Yah. Yah had to give him permission to curse anybody. And that was anybody outside of the nation of Israel. And now we're dealing with the nation of Israel, and we know that Israel is a peculiar people. So this is going to be even more different than the other people that Balaam was blessing and cursing. And so that's what we're finna see.
Now remember,
what was even different about them?
Now remember what we learned last week, that Moab sits at the other gate to this place,
right,
where that leads to the King Highway. So they tried at first to deal with the ruler of Edom. That was a no-go. So they done made their way around to Moab, thinking maybe they could, talk some sense into Moab. And it's the same area that they trying to get into. And I guess one part is Edom, and then one part is for Moab.
Yeah, you read in verse 1 that Israel set out and camped in the desert plains of Moab that was beyond the garden or the Jordan of Jericho. So this is in the same area that Joshua of Nun,
later conquers. So we're gonna read about how the walls came down and everything.
Same place.
Yep.
All these, and again, so when we do deal with that wilderness thing, all these wildernesses are all in the same
area,
general vicinity. All of these wildernesses,
remember,
same vicinity.
Edom, Moab, and the chief sons of Ammon.
Yeah.
So remember that, because that's gonna keep coming up.
And the reason I want to, I and her both emphasize that is because we were in a position as fairly newbies in the truth, what we were reading about and studying under under a teacher that was talking about how Scripture says He's going to deal with us face to face in the wilderness. He's going to bring us out into the wilderness as He did Israel as they came out of Egypt. And this individual was like, well, we in America, so the wilderness is here. It's probably going to be in South America. Probably going to be in this place. It's probably going to be in that place. And we were actually considering that, like trying to figure out, well, maybe He's going with us. Yeah. But as we were still reading through our Standard 66 from cover to cover. We hadn't completed at that point. But as we read through it, we began to see that every time He mentioned these wildernesses, it was always the same area. So when He tells you, I'm going to bring you into the wilderness again, He's literally telling you, I'm going to bring you into the same wildernesses again, not a different wilderness, the same wilderness, right? And so that's why we emphasizing that over and over.
Go to Latasha.
No, I was going to say the one thing I always notice is when Elohim is talking to somebody, he always asks them a question to see if they're going to answer honestly. Like even with Balaam in verse 9, he asks them, "Who are these men with you?" And automatically he know that Yahuwah know who the men are, but he just want to know, like, are you going to be honest with me? Are you going to be truthful?
Excellent point. Yeah.
Yeah.
You're
And
right.
I noticed that, like throughout scripture, he said, the adversary, he was asking, like, "Well, where you been?" Like the adversary, I know you know where I've been, but I'm gonna tell you because you asked me. But he noticed that throughout scripture that that's one like he always asks you a question to see, like, are you going to answer this question that I already know the answer to?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Where's your heart at?
Yeah.
Where's your heart at? Yeah.
And then, in trying to understand the Most High relationship with Balaam and beings like the adversary, I seen this really good breakdown. This really good breakdown about how Abiyah created evil. And, and at first he was like, before all your red flags start, I see so many red flags being. Was that
I
Yerushalayim?
think that was Yerushalayim.
And it was just a really good breakdown where he just really showed that, Abiyah created evil. He created the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. He created that. And so in him, a part of his creation are these dark beings, you know what I mean? And so that was really good. I'm gonna try to find that and share that in the room if I can find that. That was a good one. Yeah, that was really good. Okay, where are they?
Here's more. Allow refuse to come with us.
Okay, so he said I highly esteem, so we're gonna pick up at 18.
18, okay.
And Balaam answered and said to the servants of Balak, though Balak were to give me his house filled with silver and gold, I am unable to go beyond the word of Yahuwah, my Elohim, to do less or more.
That. I'm not gonna spend too much time on it, but that's a very profound statement.
It is.
I'm unable to go beyond what Yahuwah says I can do.
Period.
I can't do more. I can't do less. And Balak couldn't get that through his understanding.
Mm-hmm.
But even Balaam was like, bro, I would love to help you.
Mm-hmm.
Trust me.
Mm-hmm.
But what he said I can't do, I can't do.
I can't do it.
I'm smart enough to know that.
He said, Yahuwah, my Elohim.
He sure did.
This is Balaam now.
Sure did.
And if they don't come, look, let me tell you something, there's some dark people out there, but there ain't too many of them come as dark as Balaam, you know what I mean? And this would kill me about when I be hearing these atheists and these just knuckleheads out here talking about, ain't no higher power, they don't believe in this, they don't believe in that. And you think about like beings like Balaam and the devil, who even the most wickedest beings, but got enough sense to know, I'm not playing with this guy.
Yeah.
This guy is not to be played with. You can play a lot of things. You can play with a basketball, you can play with a football, but this guy, nope.
Your plan is over.
Yeah, because
you can play, but your play is gonna be over if you cross that.
And you really understand what he told Job about Leviathan.
Right.
He told Job, he was like, you gonna put Leviathan on a leash so your daughter can pet him. You gonna do that, but I control Leviathan.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Okay. And now, please, you also stay here tonight and let me find out what more Yahuwah says to me. Now, so now this is another, repeat this now. Abiyah told Balaam no. He was clear about it. They came offer him a little more cash. So Balaam like, man, look, and he's torn. Like he going through Disturbia right now. You know what I mean? He can offer me a house full of silver and I can't do nothing. But I tell you what.
Let me ask him again.
Maybe he changed his mind. Because, maybe they then built another calf. let's just pray. You
And,
know.
yeah.
Yeah.
So maybe they have sinned.
They have seen.
In all honesty, exactly
Yeah.
what she said. Let me ask him again, because maybe they've done something to displease
To
him,
upset him. You never
and
know.
maybe I can curse them
Yeah.
on your behalf. But that would be the reason. That would be the reason that I will be allowed to do what you asked me to do. Yeah.
So, you can see Balaam believes in Abiyah. He calls Abiyah his power.
He know how this thing works.
Yeah, he knows that these are Abiyah's people.
Yep.
But he does not respect this. The fact that these are Abiyah people never stopped him from trying to kill Moses and trying to kill Abraham, you know what I'm saying? Never stopped him. So he doesn't respect the fact that he doesn't care for these people.
Somebody had to have the job of being the entity in the earth to be the consequences to Israel's disobedience.
And my man been right there for it all. Right slide.
Somebody had to have that job.
Yep. And are y'all still there? Can we get a 7 if y'all still there? Because everybody froze. I don't know if our internet just finally gave up the ghost. Okay. And Elohim came to Balaam at night and said to him, if the men come to call you, rise and go with them, but only the word which I speak to you that you do. And Balaam rose in the morning and saddled his donkey and went with the heads of Moab. But the displeasure of Elohim burnt because he went. And the messenger of Yahuwah, now this is a big one. The messenger of the Yahuwah, or the Malak Yahuwah, this is the big guy. This is one of the big ones, okay? Stationed himself in the way as an adversary against him. And he was riding on his donkey, and his 2 servants were with him. And the donkey saw the messenger of Yahuwah standing in the way with his sword drawn in his hand. And the donkey turned aside out of the way and went into the field. So Balaam struck the donkey to turn her back unto the way. Then the messenger Yahuwah stood in a narrow passage between the vineyard with a wall on this side and a wall on that side. And when the donkey saw the messenger of Yahuwah, she pushed herself against the wall and crushed Balaam's foot against the wall. So he struck her again. And the messenger of Yahuwah went further and stood in a narrow place where there was no way to turn aside, right or left. And when the donkey saw the messenger of Yahuwah, she lay down under Balaam. So Balaam's displeasure burned, and he struck the donkey with his staff.
Pause for a second. Okay. You guys been tuning into the priesthood study, correct? Do you remember us talking about the animals coming to Noah and how Yahuwah said he was to understand which animals he was to bring on the ark, those that submitted themselves to Noah by crouching down? Interesting thing that a brother pointed out. When you read this passage in the Hebrew, it doesn't say messenger of Yahuwah. That of is not there. It simply says malak. So the malak is messenger or malakim or ruler. It simply says malak Yahuwah.
Period.
Malak Yahuwah. And so Malak Yahuwah presented himself to that donkey, and that donkey said, oh, let me submit. And Balaam was too dumb to know what was going on.
And now show you the power of that Malak.
And he wedged himself, and that donkey crouched down because that donkey understood this was Malak Yahuwah. And Balaam still didn't understand it. And this is what had to happen for Balaam to understand what position he had got himself into.
To show you the power of that Malak, because Balaam was a seer.
Right.
Balaam was a sorcerer. He would have been able to sense that spirit, or he should have been able to, if that spirit in any way wanted to be sensed by him,
Right.
rather than this spirit wanted to teach him a lesson. You ain't all that, bro.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? I know they didn't blow your head up. You know, remember this was Merlin before Merlin. You know what I'm saying? I know all these kings reaching out to you.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? But you didn't see me coming, did you?
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
You didn't ask about the same.
You're right. Okay.
25.
And then Yahuwah 31.
31.
No, the donkey. No, 25. You're right. Okay. And when the donkey saw the messenger Yahuwah, she pushed herself against crushed his foot. I think 27.
You hadn't read that yet.
Okay. And the messenger of Yahuwah went further and stood in a narrow place where there was no way to turn aside, right or left. And when the donkey saw the messenger of Yahuwah, she lay down under Balaam. So Balaam's displeasure burned, and he struck the donkey with his staff. Then Yahuwah opened the mouth of the donkey, and she said to Balaam, "What have I done to you, that you have stricken me these 3 times? And Balaam said to the donkey, "Because you have mocked me, and I wish there were a sword in my hand, for I would have killed you by now." And the donkey said to Balaam, "Am I not your donkey, on which you have ridden ever since I became yours? To this day, was I ever known to do this to you?" And he said, "No."
Wait. So the donkey was talking to Balaam. Stay with me, y'all. Balaam was not surprised,
Nope.
amazed,
Nope.
scared
Nope.
that him and the donkey is now having a conversation
Nope.
like they buddies and go way back.
He wasn't freaked out at all.
Not freaked out at all. Okay, just making sure we're on the same page.
And snapped back at him.
Mm-hmm.
So
okay.
Then Yahuwah opened Balaam's eyes, and he saw the messenger of Yahuwah.
So who opened his eyes?
Most High, Yahuwah.
Oh, Yahuwah. Okay.
Standing in the way with his drawn sword in his hand. He bowed his head and fell on his face. He fell off, tipped over her, foot crushed and all. And the messenger of Yahuwah said to him, "Why have you struck your donkey these 3 times? See, I have come out to stand against you, because your way is reckless before me." And the donkey saw me.
You about to cross me.
Ma'am.
You about to cross me. I'm stopping you before you cross me. But you running reckless.
Because I told you no twice.
Right.
And you insist on going.
Mm-hmm.
So now you finna damn yourself. And the donkey saw me and turned aside from me these 3 times. If she had not turned aside from me, I certainly would have killed you by now. And let her live.
Hold on. In Deuteronomy, we read this passage that said, "I'm going to send a messenger before you in my name. Do what he does. Do what he says, because he will not pardon you." Nope. He will not pardon you. And that's what he said. If that donkey had not turned aside,
yep.
I wasn't going to tell you to stop.
No.
I was standing here and I was waiting for you to cross this line, because once you cross that line, I was going to take you out.
Let me tell you something. This messenger is not to be played with.
Not
he has zero patience for your fears, desires, wants, feelings. This messenger don't care.
Yep.
Zero.
You want a wicked reward, he gonna give you a wicked reward.
Man. You know what I'm saying? This is the one I can look. I can't prove it, but I think this is the one they sent to take old boy out. I can't prove it. Anyway. So the donkey saw me and turned. It's okay. And Balaam said to the messenger of Yahuwah, "I have sinned, for I did not know you stood in the way against me. And now, if evil is in your eyes, let me turn on around." And the messenger of Yahuwah said to Balaam, "Go on with him now, but only the words that I speak to you, that you speak." Balaam then went with the heads of Balak. And when Balak heard that Balaam was coming, he went out to meet him at the city of Moab, which is on the border at the Arnon, which was the extreme, which was in the extremity of the border. And Balak said to Balaam, "Did I not urgently send to you, calling for you? Why did you not come to me? Am I not able to esteem you?" And Balaam said to Balak, "See, I have come to you. Now, am I at all able to say somewhat? The word that Yahuwah puts in my mouth, that I speak." He shook now. And Balaam went with Balak, and they came to Koriath Huzoth. And Balak slaughtered cattle and sheep, and he sent some to Balaam and to the heads who were with him. And it came to be in the morning that Balak took Balaam and brought him up to the high places of Baal. And from there he saw the extremity of the camp.
He took him up to the high places of Baal. Balak told Balaam, "Man, I told you to hurry up. What took you so long? Don't you know I have the power to make you a great man?" But after what he just seen, he's like, damn.
Man,
What you got the power to do ain't nothing, because I almost lost everything.
Man, you don't even know, man. I had to go take a shower after that. What happened there, man?
So now they making these blood sacrifices, but for the altar of Baal.
Exactly.
And then took them up to the
altar
altar of Baal.
Did y'all notice that? Did y'all notice what just happened? They just sacrificed on that dog altar. The other priesthood, that other priesthood.
23.
Wait, Coach Latasha got her hand up.
Go ahead, sis.
No, I was gonna say even when he took him up to the hill, well, it's coming up anyway, but even when he took him up to the hill and it still wasn't going his way, he took him up to the highest hill. He like, "Do you see all of them? Like, you got to do something." It's coming up though, and I'm just in my head, I'm like, is he listening to what even Balaam in all his sorcery and everything, is he listening to what Balaam's telling him? Nope. Like, listen to what he's telling you. He's telling you, if you bless them, you're going to be blessed. If you curse them, you're going to be cursed. Like, he was just so shook because it was so many. He wasn't listening to what Yahuwah was telling him, like, bless my people and I'm going to bless you. But it's coming up.
Nah, you're right. He had one thing on the brain, and Balak is so torn that he's still listening.
And then you know because you read ahead, you know what's going to come up. Yeah. So this another thing that caused Balaam to resent, because in his greediness, he ended up blessing the children of Israel. You know what I'm saying? Because he was greedy. So to show you how Abba Yah works, he like, okay, you want to go? Go. Let's do it. Let's do it. Come on.
Right. Go ahead. Go. You with him now. All right. Numbers chapter 23. And Balaam said to Balak, "Build 7 slaughter places for me here, and prepare 7 bulls and 7 rams for me here."
Question, real quick. Who sacrifices? Who makes these kind of sacrifices?
Priest.
So was Balaam the priest of Yahuwah's temple?
Absolutely not.
Then who was he the priest of? Who was he the high priest of?
Good question. Good question. And he said, "Build 7 slaughter places." A number of completion. He knew that. "And prepare 7 bulls and 7 rams for me here." And Balak did as Balaam had spoken. And Balak and Balaam offered a bull and a ram on each slaughter place. And Balaam then said to Balak, "Stand by your ascending offering and let me go on. It might be that Yahuwah does come to meet me, and whatever he shows me, I shall then declare to you." And when he went to a bare height, and Elohim came to Balaam, and he said to him, "I have prepared 7 slaughter places, and I have offered on each slaughter place a bull and a ram." And Yahuwah put a sword in the mouth of thank you. Sword. Nowhere there. And Yahuwah put a word in the mouth of Balaam. That makes so much more sense.
You do. I could swear. I mean, I can see that though, because this light's coming, this light's going. Balaam was sick. Okay.
Yahuwah put a word in the mouth of Balaam and said, return to Balak, and this is what you say. And he returned to him and saw him standing by his ascending offering, and he and all the heads of Moab. And he took up this proverb and said, Balak, the sovereign of Moab, has brought me from Aram, from the mountains of the east. Come, curse Jacob for me, and come, rage at Yasharal, or Israel. How do I curse whom Aiel has not cursed? And how do I rage at whom Yahuwah has not raged? From the top of the rocks I see him. From the hills I observe him. Look, a people dwelling alone, not reckoning itself among the nations. A people dwelling alone, not reckoning. That's like a census. That's like a census, not counting itself among the other nations. A nation set apart, not counting itself as part of the other nations. Is what he's saying. Okay.
Strangers in this land.
That's correct.
On this earth.
That's correct.
Yeah.
Not reckoning itself among the nations. Who shall count the dust of Jacob and the number of 1/4 of Yasharal? Let me die the death of the upright, and let my end be like his. And Balak said to Balaam, what have you done to me? I took you to curse my enemies, and look, you have kept on blessing. What he might have wanted to say.
You know,
What are
he
you
was throwing his
doing?
hat down,
Yeah.
renting his clothes. What are you doing?
And he answered and said, should I not take heed to speak what Yahuwah has put in my mouth? And Balak said to him, please come with me to another place from where you see them. You only see the extremity, but not all of them. You don't see how serious it is.
You don't even know what I'm talking about.
Let me take you to another altar. Hold on. Wait. You don't get it. Curse them for me from there. And he took him from the field of Sophim to the top of Pisgah and built 7 slaughter places and offered a bull and a ram on each slaughter place. And he said to Balak, stand here by your ascending offerings while I meet over there. And Yahuwah came to Balaam and put a word in his mouth, not a sword, and said, go back to Balak and say this. So he went to him and saw him standing by his ascending offering, and the heads of Moab with him. And Balak asked him, what did Yahuwah say? And he took up his proverb and said, rise up, Balak, and hear. Listen to me, son of Zippor. Aiel is not a man. He don't have to lie. Nor a son of man. He don't have to repent. Has he said, and would he not do it? Or spoken, and would not confirm it? You needed him to come say it again in a different place?
Look.
He's going to tell you the same thing over here that he told you over there. It didn't change.
Stop playing with him, man.
That's what he's saying, fam, in layman's terms. See, I have revealed to bless.
Received to bless.
See, I have received, Torah, to bless. And he has not, and he has blessed. And I do not reverse it. He has not looked upon wickedness in Jacob, nor has he seen trouble in Israel. Y'all got that?
Yeah.
I'm not going to curse them. I cannot do anything but bless them because what? Because he has not looked upon wickedness in Jacob, nor has he seen trouble in Israel. In other words, they're doing what they're supposed to do right now. They're keeping the commandments. They're being obedient. What did Yahushua say? My Father is always with me because
I always do what
I
pleases.
always do what pleases him, right? And so because Israel is doing what is pleasing to Yahuwah, he did not allow Balaam to curse them. If they was being wicked, he probably would have said, go for it. I will allow you.
So now, what y'all need to realize that in this moment, Balaam is under a possession. So they have performed a ritual.
Yep.
So he in full high priest mode.
Yep.
So he under a possession, and he's speaking these words
Of Yahuwah. That's
to
correct.
Balak. You know what I'm saying?
Yep.
But once this is over, he snaps out of it,
Mhm.
and he's pissed.
Mhm.
Okay, I don't want to spoil it, but when he said right here, Yahuwah has not looked upon the wickedness of Jacob. Up until that point, Jacob had not Israel, although we had done plenty of wickedness, we had not started doing the things because the commandments was just given to us. We had not learned the significance of breaking the commandments, but old Balaam knew. And so Balaam is the one who puts it out there like, okay, look, so we see what we got to do.
If you want to defeat Jacob, if you want to defeat Israel, get him or them to sin.
To sin. You got to
He
get
will,
them.
he will remove his protection if you can get them to be disobedient.
And so if you ever wondering, I know some people talk about sin like it's no big deal, and he know my heart, and
Yes.
I'm a
yes, he does.
I'm a bounce right back. And I mean, and you may, what scripture say, a man falls 7 times and 7 times he get up.
Yeah.
But at the same time, you need to know how powerful sinning is, and that each time you sin, there's a separation.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Yes, Abiyah, in some cases,
Just like the garden.
Cain, in some cases, Abiyah protect us and he cover us. But how do you know if this is the one that is no return from, is no coming back from?
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
And what we're going to submit to you guys is that once we see here what Balaam came to understand, and Balak as well, this information began to be shared. We're already reading about Israel going through the wilderness and approaching each one of these nations, Ammon, Edom, Moab now, and asking them to allow Israel to cross through their land into what's supposed to be Israel's land.
Yeah.
These are people who are natural born enemies to Israel for one reason or another. Let's not get into those details. But for one reason or another, these are natural born enemies to Israel. And what we're submitting to you guys, as we're reading here, is that the information began to be passed among those nations, that if we're going to be able to defeat them for whatever our purposes are, the best way to do that is to get him to remove his covering or his protection. And how do we do that? Subtlety.
Yeah. That's what he did.
Subtlety.
That's what he did. It was Balaam. Yeah.
How did the serpent get his way in the garden?
Very sly.
Subtlety.
Yeah.
Right? So let me weave this in here whereby they think this is justified. It's okay for you to, what did he say? He said, nah, that ain't, nah, come on, he tripping. That ain't what he meant.
Yeah.
It's okay for you to do that.
And that snake taught him how to first weaken. He said, first, you got to come at Judah. You got to, look, if you're going to get it, you got to weaken Judah first. You got to come at Judah. Judah's weakness is women and alcohol.
Right.
He tell them, get your neighbors, you know.
And look, and put them both together.
Oh,
for
my
the best
goodness.
result.
You know what I'm saying? Get your neighbors to dress their daughters up like harlots.
Yeah.
And get them to dance in front of their
Philistines
boys.
in them.
Yeah, they can't resist that. You know what I'm saying? He told them everything. He told them how to defeat Jacob.
Yep. Put charms on them. Okay, moving on. Moving right along. 21. He has not looked upon wickedness in Jacob, nor has he seen trouble in Israel. Yahuwah, his Elohim, is with him. Jacob, Israel, Yahuwah is with him. And the shout of a sovereign is in him. Interesting.
That's something.
Ayel is power, head, ox. Ayel, who brought them out of Mitzrayim. Ayel is power, head. Who's the head according to is it Corinthians?
The man.
Mashiach. Okay. Ayel, who brought them out of Mitzrayim, is for them like the horns of a wild ox. For there is no sorcery against Jacob, nor is there any divination against Israel.
We'll pause real quick. Remember this, family. Remember this. Stand on this. I don't give a care what kind of mess.
You doing what you're supposed to do? Hoodoo, voodoo, woodon,
nothing.
Whatever.
Nothing.
Don't matter.
It don't matter.
You don't need to be worried about
it. Don't
that
matter.
or scared of that.
I've heard Bruce talking about stop putting hexes on me. What?
Right.
Why would you even? What? How is that even a thing?
How could you?
How?
No weapons formed against me shall prosper.
Can't. How is that even? That magic, that voodoo stuff is like water compared to y'all.
If you being obedient.
Can't.
If we are being obedient.
Can't.
Nor is there any divination against Israel. Now, it is said to Jacob and to Israel, what has Ayel done? Look, a people rises like a lioness and lifts itself up like a lion. It lies not down until it devours the prey and drinks the blood of the slain. And Balak said to Balaam, do not curse them at all, nor bless them at all. How about this? If you can't curse them, how about don't bless them?
Don't bless them, though.
Help me. Help me. Help me. Help me.
Help me.
And Balak said to Balaam, do not curse them at all, nor bless them at all. And Balaam answered and said to Balak, have I not spoken to you, saying, all that Yahuwah speaks, that I do? And Balak said to Balaam, please come. Let me take you to another slaughter place. It might be right in the eyes of Elohim that you curse them from me from there.
But notice the significance. This is my first time even seeing it when you was reading. He took him and he caused Balaam to bless the children of Israel at these three points.
Different places. Sure did.
You know what I'm saying? What's the significance of that?
He triangulated their coordinates.
He did. All day.
Okay. And Balak took Balaam to the top of Peor. Peor is going to come up later on as well.
Remember Balaam from Peor. Balaam people. That's where they from.
That overlooks the wasteland.
The wasteland. Now keep that in mind.
And Balaam said to Balak, build 7 slaughter places for me here, and prepare 7 bulls and 7 rams for me here. And Balak did as Balaam had said, and offered a bull and a ram on each slaughter place. 125.
12, out of 12. Okay, and when Balaam saw that it pleased Yahuwah to bless Israel, he did not go at other times to seek to use sorcery, but he set his face toward the wilderness. And Balaam lifted, just caught that one too. And when Balaam saw that it pleased Yahuwah to bless Israel, he did not go as at other times to seek to use sorcery, but he set his face toward the wilderness.
This is, as she said earlier, here's when I realized that at this point, Balaam was being possessed by Yahuwah.
Yep.
He didn't even attempt to go about the wicked ways in which he was used to creating a line of communication between him and all of the spirits, including Yahuwah. Okay, and so Yahuwah has now, he finna take over Balaam to the point where Balaam ain't been taken over.
Yeah.
In this magnitude yet.
Yeah.
So like your body, he's completely taken over at this point.
He And let me tell you something. Okay, wait, I'll tell you that later. Okay.
Don't spoil it.
Okay. And Balaam lifted up his eyes and saw Israel encamped according to their tribes. And the spirit of Elohim came upon him.
Stop. That's the first place we read that. He was communicating. Even the messenger of Yahuwah, Malak Yahuwah, was communicating with him. He was repeating what he has heard. But this is the first place we read here. He did not go up to use sorcery. And it says, and the spirit of Elohim came upon him. That's very significant.
Yes, it is.
Okay.
And he took up his proverb and said, the saying of Balaam, son of Beor, and the saying of the man whose eyes are opened.
Pause. I hate to break this up.
Go on, get
so
in it.
Incrementally.
Go on, get in it.
So now this has become a proverb, meaning this is going to be passed down as a word from generation to generation.
You can read Micah 6:5 and see that.
Still happening.
They still talking about it. You got Micah 6:5 written down? Oh, she waving my hand.
Come on. You come to the mic, and it says, the saying of Balaam, son of Beor, and the saying of the man whose eyes were open. Now we dealing with somebody who was dumb. And it's saying here that now even Balaam's eyes was opened.
With the Ruach on him?
Who got the power to open anybody's eyes? It says Yahuwah opened Balaam's eyes. Go ahead, sis. What you got?
Go ahead, Coach.
No, I want to say this whole chapter is filled of prophecy.
Yep.
That's right.
Like when you read it, it's filled. The whole chapter is filled with prophecy because he's talking of this whole, like the whole chapter of 24 is filled with prophecy, and it's like I said before, it's mind blowing when he opened your eyes. It's just it's mind blowing because it's like I've read this so many times and I didn't see it before, and now when I read it again, I'm like, whoa! Like this whole chapter, I never realized this whole chapter is filled with prophecies and telling how they're going to fall down to their face and how they're going to bow their knees, and how this whole entire chapter is filled with prophecy.
Yeah, it's loaded. It's loaded.
Okay.
I'm not going to give it away.
I know. I want to. I'm trying not to spoil.
Akoti Gabor asked, where can we find more about how Balaam was? One of the places off the top of my head to read more about Balaam is in Jasher.
Jasher, yeah.
Read the book of Jasher.
Jasher go into great detail. The story of Balaam and Moses interactions.
Yeah, you'll read about Balaam and Abraham even. Was that Balaam?
It didn't say.
You sure?
Balaam,
I think it said it was Balaam.
It was the same spirit. So like the same spirit that possessed Balaam, it was the same spirit because he was a sorcerer. He instructed Nimrod to I know I read somewhere where it did say it was Balaam.
I thought so.
But that was
it wasn't in Jasher? I think it was in Jasher.
You read
I feel like I feel like in the book of Jasher, it was his grandfather because they actually give the lineage of Balaam.
That's possible.
Right.
In Jasher.
That could be.
So I feel like it was because they give his lineage. I feel like it was like his grandfather that was interacting with Abraham.
That's possible.
Okay.
But
it was still like he said, it was still the same spirit because he taught them, like it was passed down, like the sorcery was passed down from father to father.
Yeah.
Right. So I would say if you want to learn more about Balaam's spirit and his lineage and his and what was going on with his ancestors and descendants, Jasher is a good place to start.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So Balaam,
and you'll see how that individual interact with the other priesthood.
Yeah.
Like you'll see the direct interaction.
To this day.
To this day,
you know what I'm saying? Yeah. That spirit that was with the sons of Peor was one of them powerful ones. It's probably one of the ones from the original ones who failed. You know what I'm saying? And and you know it would have to obtain that spirit in that bloodline, in Balaam's bloodline, will be a huge thing to this day. You know what I'm saying? So they would have gone out their way to make sure
some are
they,
very proud of it.
yeah, to make sure their blood stay pure, whatever may have you, so that that spirit can travel down. And one thing, if you ever want to know, just look at the actions. So this spirit is always close to rulers. It's the puppet master behind rulers, and it's a priestly spirit. Yeah.
She said puppet masters, but I want to just to the council.
Right.
Puppet master, cool. I'm not disagreeing with that.
Right.
But as the ruler may see it,
right,
the council, right? So whoever's sitting in the throne, who's the one whispering in the ear of the one on the throne?
Yep.
And what spirit are they operating in?
Cain. To this day.
Yeah, we see it in a lot of the movies that they show you about.
Yep.
Like who's our children watch the newer version of King Arthur. Who was he going to get his counsel from?
The Kingsman. Do y'all watch the Kingsman? So the Kingsman got a character on there that so much put me in the mind of that spirit. I can't describe him, but if y'all ever watched the Kingsman, I think it's the Kingsman Part 2 or 3 or something like that. Okay, anyway, go ahead, Akoti Antoinette.
I'm sorry. If you really, and historically it shows that in Egypt, because Balaam was in Egypt, they had inbreeding. That's why they were saying, Tut and all of them, they all were inbred. So the whole keeping it, royal, keeping it in the family. If you notice, during most of the royal, quote unquote, air quotes, royal lines, it's mostly of inbreeding.
Yeah.
Even in Europe, there was a lot of deformality. There was intense inbreeding within all of those royal.
Yes, ma'am. You're right.
Yep, absolutely.
100%.
Absolutely.
A lot of people don't know that King Tut was himself. When they unearthed his remains, was deformed as well. Severely deformed. But of course, in the movies and the Indiana Joneses and all that, they played up like he was virile and strong and tall, and no, very deformed.
And for these spirits, to create these
Akhenaten, when they revealed him.
For these spirits to create these bodies for themselves, or these bodies like have to be like the perfect fit. You know what I mean? It's like for these spirits, getting in the wrong body is like, you ever put on a pair of shoes that's too small? You know how uncomfortable it is. So when they talk about keeping it in the family and keeping it in the bloodline, this is something serious to them, because they are growing bodies, comfortable homes for themselves. You know what I'm saying? And protecting them fiercely, because it's billions of spirits roaming displaced. Okay. They don't have nobody, because they're not from, in the spirit world, it's a lot like people world, it's hierarchies, you know what I mean? And so because they not from like the hierarchies of demons or whatever may have you, maybe they not from those original the original ones that failed. Those will probably be the most powerful demons. Those that's from those some Jaz and them sons, and they will be very powerful. So yeah,
I would agree. Okay, do you remember where you left? Oh wait, was somebody else's hand up before we go
on? No, I just had I was just into Balaam. It's like Coach and Tony said, from the incest, because I was looking, when you read about how y'all say he's not like incest children cannot come into the kingdom. So that's what made me look into like Balaam lineage, because I'm like, he come from Moab, and then so what Like did they break that up, or did they not break it up? And like she said, they was constantly inbreeding to keep that sorcery. So that's why he said like they will always be cursed because of the incest that Lot daughters did. So that's what made me look at him lineage, if you really want to look into it.
Okay.
Was
good
it
point.
Balak that came? I thought Balak came from Moab and Bilam from Peor.
He did too. They a little bit more into chapter 24. Y'all want to see they came from Seth too.
Yeah.
They came from. It's a lot.
So both of them was started with the line of Lot, right?
Mm. Yeah, Lot and his two daughters.
Oh my goodness, that messed up.
Okay. Okay. Well, let's see. Where did we leave off? Was it? Mm-mm.
3.
No, 3. That's right. That was
3.
the last one you read.
Okay. And he took up his proverb and said, "The saying of Bilam, son of Beor, and the saying of the man whose eyes are opened, the saying of him who hears the words of El, who sees the vision of the Almighty, who falls down with eyes open wide. How good are your tents, O Jacob, your dwelling places, O Israel." You
He's
know this
speaking
is
this
not
under possession.
okay. You know this is not Bilam.
Yeah.
Like wadis that stretched out, like gardens by a river, like aloes planted by Yahuwah, like cedars beside waters. He makes water flow from his buckets, and his seed is in many waters. His sovereign is higher than Agag, and his reign is exalted. Yahuwah, who brought him out of Mizraim, is for them like the horns of a wild ox. He devours nations, his enemies, and he breaks their bones, and with his arrow he smites. He bowed down, he lay down like a lion, and like a lion who would rouse him. Blessed is he who blesses you, and cursed is he who curses you. So now, this is a famous scripture here.
And it's a continuation of Genesis too.
Because Balaam said, "The blessed is he who blesses you, and cursed is he who curses you." This will follow the children of Israel for the rest of our existence. So it was just known, blessed is he who blesses you. So even to this day, this applies. Okay, the words that he uttered
This is a
up
continuation.
on that mountain.
Look, Genesis 12. Genesis 12, Yahuwah is talking to Abraham at this point. And he says, "And 2, I shall make you a great nation and bless you and make you your name great. And you shall be a blessing. And I shall bless those who bless you and curse him who curses you. And in you, all the nations or the clans of the earth shall be blessed." So he just reaffirming here the same thing he had already said. Is that your dog? Okay, go ahead.
Okay. Then the displeasure of Balak burned against Balaam, and he struck his hands together. Like, snap out of it. What's wrong with you? Balak then said to Balaam, "I summoned you to curse my enemies. And see, you have kept on blessing these 3 times. And now, flee to your place. I said I would greatly esteem you, and see, Yahuwah has kept you back from esteem." So you can thank Yahuwah for this. You won't get any riches.
Yahuwah kept you back from esteem, huh?
And Balaam said to Balak, "Did I not also speak to your messengers whom you sent to me, saying..."
13, "If Balak should give me his house filled with silver and gold, I am unable to go beyond the word of Yahuwah, to do either good or evil of my own heart. what Yahuwah speaks, that I speak. Didn't I tell him that?
That's what I said.
And now see, I am going to my people. Come, let me advise you what this people is going to do to your people in the latter days.
Peep game. Latter days.
And he took up this proverb and said, the saying of Balaam, son of Beor, and the saying of the man whose eyes are opened, the saying of him who hears the words of Aiel and knows the knowledge of the Most High, who sees the vision of the Almighty, who falls down with his eyes wide open. That's a big difference from being eyes wide shut.
Mm-hmm.
I see him, but not now.
Peep.
I observe him, but not near.
But not near.
A star shall come out of Jacob,
Mm.
and a scepter shall rise out of Israel, and shall smite the corners of Moab, and shall destroy all the sons of Seth. And Edom shall be a possession,
Uh-oh.
and Seir shall be a possession, enemies. And Israel or Yasharal is doing mightily. And out of Jacob one shall rule and destroy the remnant of Ar. He then looked on Amalek. Remember the Amalekites, the Amalekites. He then looked on Amalek, and he took up his proverb and said, Amalek was first among the nations, but his latter end is to perish forever.
Mm.
He then looked upon the Canaanites or the Kenites, and he took up his proverb and said, firm is your dwelling place, and you nest, and your nest is set in the rock.
Mm.
But Cain is to be burned.
Mm.
Till when does Ashur keep you captive?
Mm.
And he took up his proverb and said, oh, who does live when Aiel does this? And ships shall come from the coast of Kittim or Shittim, however you choose to pronounce that. And they shall afflict Asher and afflict Eber, and so shall he also perish. And Balaam arose and left and returned to his place, and Balak also went his way.
Mm.
So yeah,
That
it's
was
a lot
loaded.
there.
That was loaded.
Again,
That was loaded.
understanding who these people are that are being spoken of. You see
Mhm.
Moab being spoken of, Seth, Edom being spoken of, Seir, Amalek, Canaan, Cain,
Seir is a place. The land.
Assyria,
Seir is a place.
Eber, Asher, all
Mm.
these people that y'all say he gonna deal with. And he say, look, when Yahuwah deal with these people, who gonna live? And it's not like arbitrary, like who knows.
Mhm.
It's very specific. Those who either are under his covering or have submitted to those who are under his covering.
Mhm.
That's it.
Period.
Everybody else will perish. Either you're going to submit or perish. So yeah, like Coty said, it's definitely prophecy. It's big prophecy.
He dropped a clue. You know, first he say, I'm gonna show you what's gonna happen in the latter days. Anytime you see that in the scripture, they talking about the end times.
Yep.
Anytime, and like Balaam used the term latter days, but most of the time, the Most High, whenever the Most High give him prophecy about the end time, he would say in that day.
Yep.
You know what I'm saying? So anytime you see in the scriptures where he say, and in that day, that's end time prophecy.
Yep.
And he gave a clue as to Edom shall be a possession. That's a clue. And Seir, that's a clue.
Mm-hmm.
Balak in his enthusiasm brought Balaam to bless these areas, these certain areas in the wilderness.
Right.
That's a clue.
think about the portion of Torah that says, um, "He that dig a ditch for his neighbor, he gonna fall into his own ditch. He gonna fall into
Yep.
that same ditch."
Yep.
That's exactly what Balak did. Balak
Yeah.
was trying to dig a ditch for Israel, and Balaam was clearly telling him, not that he wanted to.
Yeah.
I mean, he would have been great with the money in
Oh,
this thing,
absolutely. And to see the downfall of Israel.
but it was beyond his power. He said, "Man,
Yeah.
you know, this ditch is for you, brother."
You finna open up something. And then Abiyah said, yeah, because Balaam is a powerful sorcerer.
Yep.
And Balaam does have certain abilities.
Right.
So Abiyah said, okay, we're gonna use that for our advantage. Go on with him.
Yeah.
Go on with him. And everything I tell you to say, them demon spirits that you control, gonna have to honor it. Go on with them. And so now you got demons forced to do what they don't want to do, but they got to do it because Balaam spoke it.
Right. House divided.
Man, talk about turmoil.
Yes, ma'am.
Mm.
Coach
Coach,
Latasha,
yeah.
what you got?
Oh no, I was going to say, I know Seir is a place, and I know he's supposed to be a part of prophecy, but I just feel like Seir was in the mountains. They was minding a business. The people that was up there minding a business. Them Edomites went up there and started bothering them.
Girl,
Man, they gotta get punished because y'all didn't went up there. Leave us alone. We was up here minding our business, eating our little animals, living our life in the caves. We wasn't talking to nobody. And then they punished because Edom did went up there.
Hey, and
They
they obviously couldn't have been all that
there
blameless.
they could have been all that blameless if Abiyah blessed them with evil.
started messing with them and incorporating themselves into they probably because they was eating each other. So who knows?
I'm saying,
I
girl, what
believe
you
it.
you sticking up for them Nephilim for?
Hey, Seir obviously couldn't have been all that blameless.
No. But I'm just saying, Edom did a lot of stuff. I mean,
Yeah.
Esau's kids did a lot of stuff. They was messing with people.
That's true.
They
Edom
didn't
was
mix
like
all these
Edom
people
was like
up
a
in here,
cancer.
and y'all know that.
Yeah. I mean, the other thing about that is,
Yes,
you know,
them 12 sons went into everybody nation.
Mm.
sometimes you gotta know how to turn people away, and if you know they ain't good, if you know they ain't no good for you and shouldn't be dwelling with you, you know what I'm saying? In Isaiah, I think it's Isaiah 60, it says that the one eating the swine and the mouse and those dwelling
And
with
the
them
mouse hiding behind the tree.
will be taken up together, right? So it's like they just in the vicinity. It's not necessarily everybody who's doing it, but all who with them.
But a couple of Edom's sons was like heir to that throne anyway, because Edom had sons, but like the princess or something or another.
That's
so
true.
her kids, they was heir to the throne anyway. So that's how Edom moved. That's how he get in there. You know what I'm saying? So, I mean, what was you gonna do? They was royalty. That was they throne.
Oh,
Serious.
can we point out? Can we point out where he talks about the star that's coming in the scepter? Did anybody catch that?
Yeah.
Prophecy of the Messiah.
Prophecy of Messiah. Sure did.
100%.
Sure did. And that just I bet he probably went home and tried to wash his mouth out. Can't believe it. Oh my goodness, I should have went. I should have just stayed home. Man, I'm sorry.
There's one of those other books as well, and I can't remember which off the top of my head, but goes into a little bit more detail about the star that the wise men saw before the birth of Messiah, because we got to understand what made those men wise, right? There was always prophecy, as you point out here. This was prophecy of Messiah, and so wise men were aware of the prophecies of Messiah, and so one of those readings point out that there was a star that those wise men were looking out for, and that star led them to Yosef and Miriam. And that's how they came to see. First of all, they were paying attention to the stars, and then they were actually led to Mashiach as a baby to bring those gifts, the gifts that you would bring to a sovereign or a ruler. Yeah, I can't remember what that was in though. That was Joshua or Jubilees or what?
Conti Internet.
I wanted to say that, the Assyrians, they were very big on astrology and one of the Griot. And, so, they were very keen on astrology doing it, because I think it's with the, when Daniel and the lion, and all like that, it said something about astrology, not astrology, but, reading the stars and all of that.
Yeah, I can see that.
Yeah.
I can definitely see that.
Yeah.
Anybody else?
But with Coach Internet, no, I would say with Coach Internet was saying, like she said, he might have been from Assyria. I just for warning. So even though Israel is his chosen people, his peculiar people, he was using all the different nations to give warnings. Like, I'm showing y'all right now, this is what's to come. You better pay attention. And they still was just like, no, we're gonna fight and we're gonna try to defeat this. Even to this day, showing y'all, I'm sending your own people to you to give you a warning. Even like with the Assyrian that went to go see the morning star, and he knew like this is the prophecy that's coming to pass. And he probably went back and told his people, and his people still like, that ain't true. That's not going to happen. We still going to fight. I think he used the different people in the nations to give a warning, and they still don't listen.
Yeah.
And you know what also, Koti Tasha, is that we left our footprint. Israel left their footprint in all the nations. How many years were we captive in Assyria?
Correct.
How many years were we captive in other places? So, we have to know that even though we left, there's still remnants of us all over the world. And that knowledge, is still there too.
That's right.
So they knew what the prophecy was. Even, his own people who were living there in Israel weren't believing it, but they already knew, because their grandmama, their grandmama's grandmama passed that info down to them from when we were in captivity in those areas.
Right. 100%. And that goes back to what Messiah said. Messiah said the truth is going to go out to all the world, and then the end shall come. So everybody is going to have the opportunity to hear the truth, according to the words of Messiah. Whether they accept it or not is up to them each individually, whether it's individuals or nations. But they have to have had an opportunity to hear it, because it's not Yahuwah's desire that mankind should die.
And then plus the initiated know what the recipe to become a world ruler, to become the superpower. They know the recipe, and they know that all you got to do is and look and see what all these superpowers have in common.
Right.
First, they take these people, and then they become great.
And it's your double-edged sword again.
Yeah.
Because you dig in a ditch.
But
then you also hear the word.
Yep.
And now you can't say you didn't know in their judgment. Because you had his people in your nation as captives. And as we awoke, we told you the truth.
Yeah.
You either accepted it or decided to reject it.
Yep.
Go ahead, sis. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, I was gonna say I think that's why they see what happened when you good, because of what Pharaoh did. Pharaoh was good to Joseph, and because of that, Egypt was blessed. You know what I'm saying? And then each of these kings that became great, even Alexander the Greek. Alexander the Greek, y'all don't know. Well, maybe you do. Maybe you've read up on, but Alexander the Greek was very good to Israel.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? To the point where he came and, you know, he spoke to them in a way in which, you know, they was all surprised because they had heard that he was
for the altar and everything.
Cain. They had heard he was you know, so when he came to the door, they was a little shook. You know what I'm saying? But when he came to the door with like mad respect.
Yep.
You know what I'm saying? So.
But all the nations did back then.
Yeah.
It wasn't until more recent history that they began to really strip us of our heritage and disrespect us in the way that they do now.
Until one twin took over the other twin.
Yep.
And then that's when everything changed.
Yep. Koti Gabora, what you got?
What? Oh, wait, before she go, I was going to say, my grandma, she going to say to me the other day, she going to say, them people at the end of the jungle must have heard the word, because what's going on with the world today? I was like, what? But when you just said like everybody in every corner, then that's when the end times is going to come. And then she thought, they must have heard the word at the end of the jungle, because what is going on? Because she was just like watching the news and there was just so much turmoil. And I'm like, well, maybe she right. She was the people at the end of the jungle. I'm like, what?
Thanks to the internet.
Like, what?
Thanks to the internet. I seen some jungle people doing TikTok. I'm like, y'all got TikTok? They was doing TikTok right there in the huts. So I'm saying, thanks to the internet.
You got the world at your fingertips, literally. And the fact that they over there now trying to supply them with towers for access, even if they don't have laptops, but on your phones.
Yep.
You have all the world's information at your fingertips. We're living in the age of information, right?
Yeah.
We're not in the agrarian age anymore. We're not in the industrial age anymore. We're in the age of information.
Dang.
What you choose to do with that information, what you choose to do with your time, is between you and Yah on the day of judgment.
Okay.
But you cannot say that you didn't know. You cannot say that you didn't have access, because the double-edged sword of what the adversary is doing by trying to entrap people in the internet or the web of deceit, the internet of lies and all of that, is you also have to have the truth there. Yeah, you got all the lies and all the distractions, but you have to have the truth as well.
Yeah, that's the recipe.
That's the recipe. You can't have one without the other. And so what do you choose? We got free will, we got free choice. What do you choose? Every minute of every hour of every day, what are you choosing to occupy your time with?
The good gotta be there, because they ate from the tree of the knowledge of good and evil.
Yep.
So you can't get rid of the good. So I know the devil want to, but I didn't make that tree that way. You know what I'm saying? The good is there, and no matter how they want to snipe it, change it, alter it, and this is why I tell people the power of that, because people be like, you know, how could you believe in the Bible? You know, it's been tampered with, it's been, you know, this yada 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 yada. I'm like, listen, you got some things that cannot be infiltrated. You know what I'm saying? And the knowledge of good has to be there. That's a part of the agreement. It can't go nowhere. It's sealed there. You know what I'm saying? It's not going nowhere. I mean, there's a lot of folks that wanted to, but they can't. They can't do nothing about it. So it's there.
Okay.
It's what you choose. Like Shlomo said, what you choose to do with it.
My father used to drill at me, life is about choices, son. Life is all about choices.
Okay, man.
Don't get
That's
no simpler
serious.
than that.
One choice could be your spiral to the just one choice.
Yep.
One wrong choice. I mean, that's deep if you think about it. One wrong choice could be your spiral to the abyss.
Yep. Okay.
Just think about them angels, man. They thought they would just come get them a little cut up. Now look at them. Cut up. They say, I ain't gonna be that mad. He can't be that mad. It's just a little cut up.
How I'm looking at her like this and she don't stop. She see me looking at her like, real.
What I say? I said cut up.
Tape her off.
Okay.
And she like, I'm going forward.
I was speaking in code. That's why I said cut up.
Mm-hmm. Koti Gabor, what you got? She rolling over there. What you got, sis? You see me giving her the
I was
eyes,
just
right?
saying, right. I was just saying, because I know sometimes I'll be asking a lot of, information, but I'm working on a documentary where I'm tying the Bible into history, with scientific fact, with factuals.
Okay.
So I was reading this book on Socrates, and he was mentioning how he got all of this knowledge, this great Greek philosopher. He was talking about how he had gotten his knowledge from the Gans people, right? So I decided to look them up because he had mentioned them a couple of times. So I was like, who are they? Well, it all boils down to they're Africans, right? So what he did was not only did he study with them, but during the Roman invasion of Edens, for safekeeping, he said, but that's what he used to become this great Greek mythology, all of this stuff.
Right.
So I started looking more into who were these Gans people. So before they changed Africa to Africa,
right.
I'm not even going to try to pronounce it, but it's spelled Bulan. That was the quote unquote name of the supercontinent, right?
Yeah.
Now the supercontinent was a big, large landmass. It was all together. Those continents were South America, Africa, Arabia, Madagascar, India, Australia, and Antarctica. They were all one.
Right.
All right. So I started Googling the name of quote unquote Africa. And of course, Googling it from English point of view, you get all of this other stuff. So I said, hey, the word came from us. We were Hebrew. Let me start. Oh my God. So the true word of Africa actually means mother of mankind or Garden of Eden. So that was one of the reasons why they changed the name to quote unquote Africa to begin with. So we wouldn't make that correlation. Then the Arab version of that name means land of the blacks. So all of that supercontinent, meaning Arabia, all of that was considered land of the blacks. So it's just like it's specific on like where can I find this information in?
Yeah.
Because I'm tying this all together. And it's funny because even with Rib Yo series, when you're talking about like when we're listening to like the story of Dawood and them, and they're all walking across this, they're all walking east. And I'm sitting up there, as a joke, I'm like, Lord, how are we supposed to get back to that continent, and we walking? Like, but in my studies, I found that the continents are merging back together. So all of these continents that have broken off to each other are all merging back to Africa because they all broke off from Africa. And I'm talking scientific facts right now.
That's
so I'm bringing all of that to the light through my yes.
That's interesting. Yeah.
I be over here. So when y'all see me like asking questions into things and I'm tying them all together with science and anthropology and all of that. So yeah.
Okay.
Hey, hallelujah.
Hey, hallelujah.
Yeah,
I want to check it out when you finish.
Kane, me too. We definitely see that even scripturally that there was a point in time where it was all one landmass. So that is biblical, historical, as you say, scientific, and archaeological fact. I know people don't want to admit that, but that's definitely a fact. But you say they're shifting back toward each other. Now I can see that. I hadn't heard that, but I can definitely see that. So I'm interested to know more about that. Okay. Okay. Who else had their hand up? Nobody? I thought I saw somebody else's hand. No? Okay. Well, since you're gonna have to send us a link or something when you get that done, so we can check that out and give it a preview.
Okay, sounds interesting. Sounds interesting, Coach T.
All right, fam. Well, thank you for joining in with us for another.
Yeah, I'm definitely digging. You know, it was one of the most interesting things that I found out was like we always hear about the pyramids and stuff in Egypt. You know, this is what came to me. What gave me that saying, we're getting Egypt as a prize. Okay. Because now they're focusing on Egypt when it's so much other stuff beyond Egypt that proves that, you know, we were people that were a set apart people that only believed in Yah. That was it. And but it's more pyramids in Sudan than it is in Egypt. You never hear that it's pyramids in Sudan. It's more pyramids in Sudan than it is in Egypt. Yes. And they're older than the ones that are in Egypt.
There are pyramids in South America too that are older than the ones in Egypt. There are pyramids all over, really.
That is correct. Yeah.
And if you read the book of Jasher, it also says that part of that was the kingdom of Moses when he was king.
Sudan.
Down there in in that area, right?
Yep, that is exactly right. That's where he was reigning at, and that's my whole point right there. So how is Egypt or Imhotep the father of anything when Moses was ruling in Sudan, which Sudan translates into land of the blacks as well. So Sudan translates into lands of the blacks.
Yeah.
We know Moses was there, so how he was gonna be white in somewhere that say lands of the black, but okay.
Because
then they say, well, matter. Well, if it really didn't matter, they portray them as who they really are. You know, and we were discussing earlier about how the tables got turned and how Edom, you know, and some of the other ones were no longer put it like that, came to us in a good way, is because when we, you know, we were brought over there, you know, those were the descendants of David. But you know, at that time they weren't taking baths, brushing their teeth, washing their hair, doing anything that was clean and sanitizing. They were just throwing them how to be clean, how to be comely, how to take care of themselves. We taught them etiquette and all of the other things. And that's like with anybody did something really nice for them, then you were showing them something and they turn around and turn on you.
You see what happened in Native America?
That's what happened.
how to live.
Yeah, yeah, that's what happened. That's what happened to us.
Down,
Next
how to
thing you
survive.
know, they
would've
said
died.
you know you don't take Christianity, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, they took our children. You don't take Christianity. We're gonna burn you at the stake. You know, reading all about it. You know, but that's what happens when you know. Sometimes we should have left them in their filth.
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, this is true. Well, Abiya's will gonna be done. He didn't say how it was gonna happen, only that it was gonna happen. So a lot of time, sometimes I think of people who look at Eve and they say, "Well, that was the beginning of all our woes," and I don't know. I don't know if I agree with that, because Abiyah said, "Let us create man in our image." And certain things had to happen in order for this man to be created at this 7th-day interval. You know, at the end of, remember, he created man on the 6th day. So at the end of this, certain things had to happen in order for man to be created in his image. And he didn't say how it was gonna happen, only that it was gonna happen. So when you know that everything you do, and that's what I'm saying, even be easier on yourself. Not easy, but just easier, because your life had to happen the way that it happened in order for you to fulfill your destinies. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
And so it had to happen. The way things happened, it had to happen that way.
To know the things that you know based on the way you was raised, based on your life's experiences, to wake up where you woke up at, surrounded by the people who you are surrounded by, is very like unto all of the things that y'all were just talking about, where the nation of Israel was driven over here or captive to these people or occupied by those people. But because they were a part of those occupations or captivities, they were also spreading the awareness of truth, of who Yah is, of the law, statutes, and commandments. So it's, you know, the seeds are being shaken from those plants everywhere that we go, and it's all part of the plan, right? So I mean, we look at the darkness of it, and we look at how wrong some of these people were who did things they did, and for lying about all the things they're lying about and all of that. But it's like, man, in the day of judgment, they're gonna feel so foolish, because all the stuff that they set out to do is gonna count against them double and triple fold, because you know they could not get out from the fact that everything that they did was coming right back on them, because you dealing with the people.
And like the Messiah, just think about how many people gonna be saved because of our affliction. How many people got the chance to know Yah because of our affliction? And so back when they say, let his blood be on the head of our children, you know what I'm saying? We spoke that into reality. So that means that everything the Messiah went through, everything he went through so that we could be saved, we had to pick up our stake. And it was tough, you know what I'm saying? But look what he went through. Who can read any of that? Who can read any of his crucifixion without getting quivers in your soul, in your spirit? You know what I'm saying? And so he went through that so that we could be saved. Now think just for a minute what we going through and what we went through. But think about how many people gonna get a chance to know Yah because of what we going through, because of what we went through, just like the Messiah. And so even that had to happen. You know, we carrying our stake. Coach Latasha.
Oh no, I was going to say, and y'all know, like the law of the land is in order for people to get reparations, they have to be a nation, they have to have a language, and they have to have a land.
Wow.
So they saying that we can't receive reparations because we don't have those things. Because according to them, they filmed us in the jungle, right?
Wow.
So the laws of the land is that's the only way you can receive reparation. So I'll be the Israelites if we already gave that reparation to the Israelites or to the Jews. They don't call themselves Israelites. And that's another thing I was telling my aunt. I said, the Most High he didn't promise the Jews all the blessings. He said the Israelites. But people don't even recognize it, but we can't receive because we come together as a nation. We don't say like we have like one language. We don't say we have one God. We serve many gods as a people. Mm-hmm. So that's the reason why they say we don't receive reparation, because we don't have a nation, we don't have a language, and we don't have a land.
And we not not checking those. So they steady testing us. This is one of the things that we talked about even a year or two ago.
We check off
we're not checking the box. They testing you every time you apply for a job, every time you go to the hospital, every time you apply for financial aid. Mm-hmm. They ask you what your race, ethnicity, nationality is, and we steady checking African American
and language.
That's correct. And what you have to do is you need to start checking that other box and writing in Israelite. We got to claim who we are, people.
But I personally, that's going to be a part of. Y'all gonna use our coming out to show the world once Absolutely. And for all who he is.
He did it before.
Yeah. I believe that's all gonna be a part of that miracle, that testimony, because whatever he do, it's gonna be so large. It's gonna be. He said, "No longer shall they talk about when I brought you out of the land of Egypt." Yep. They ain't gonna talk about, like, people ain't even gonna remember that no more, because they're gonna be like, "But wow, when they came out of America," and just when they came out of that captivity, because we ain't just in America,
right?
You know what I'm saying? We scattered to the four corners of the earth. You know what I mean? So when he brought them out of that was huge. Can you imagine what has to take place? I'm talking about all this. Whatever has to take place is gonna call the merchants to weep.
That's right.
Now, what can happen to call the merchants to weep?
Cost them some money.
You know what I'm saying? It's Ford and Haynes Cotton gonna have to give up. Are they gonna have to give up some of that dough?
Yeah. Well, y'all know we are the number one consumers.
That's correct.
So we the number one consumers, like you said, the merchants is going to weep. Yep. If we remove ourselves, and that's why I was telling somebody, I said, just imagine if it's not a joke and we all honestly just stop for 7 days. Just stop for 7 days and don't purchase anything. America will fall within the second or third day, because we are the number one consumers. I told my cousins, I said, we don't even realize how much of a leader and how much power we have, because what other culture do the world follow? Right. Everything we do, they follow.
Listen, they follow us so bad, and we are the number one consumers so bad that literally in my marketing class, they are teaching us to target a certain age Black people as far as to get them to shop, to make your company successful. They are literally teaching that in marketing right now. To be successful, you need to target the Black community. Whatever it is that you do, you better target the Black community if you want your business to be successful.
And
that's because all weird people that don't keep our money in our community.
Yeah,
as their hand up. But I was wondering if anybody else knew why for nationality it's always Hispanic or non-Hispanic. Like there are no other nations besides that. That always comes to me.
I feel like because they trying to see if some of your people came from Portugal or if they came from, because they knew where the slaves came from. So they trying to figure out which slave what part of the boat was you on. That's what I think personally. I don't know.
Okay.
And then what you all were saying about consumership and everything like that. Just at my company, I work for the Postal Service, and just as an observation, since the pandemic, the workforce has fallen off so dramatically that it's causing an impact on everywhere you go. They're saying they're short of help. So you have now a lot of these young African, young brews, and they don't want to take these jobs anymore. So now they don't have the people who they had in the workforce. It's already causing an impact. A lot of them are like, man, I'm not, I'm not going to do that anymore. They don't showing an impact in society, just in the workforce. We can't get people to work for the post office anymore. That used to be a good government job.
That's true. That post office job was nice. Yeah, but I'm gonna tell you something. I'm gonna tell you what's gonna hurt them even more. So Shlomo was telling me a story about who you said that's Jim Beam. So Jim, huh? Jack Daniel whiskey. So Jack Daniel whiskey.
I live in Tennessee.
Yeah. So it just came
Uncle
out.
Nearest.
It just came out that the original creator of Jack Daniel whiskey was a slave, whose slave owner loved his whiskey. When his friends came over, he got him to make him some more whiskey. And then to finally, slave owner say, well, let's bottle that up.
I'm back.
And let's call it Jack Daniels. Now, did he call it out to the slave? Of course not. He called it out to himself, right? But the recipe came from a slave. So the great
it may have been, sis. I don't remember if the sentiment of the story was he was tutored by a brew. It may have been two of them. I don't remember. All I know is the end result. Yeah, go ahead.
So the descendant of this slave recently came out. Not that baby, just hold on. Recently came out. I want a white one. Sorry. Recently came out with her own line of whiskey, using one of her grandfather's or great grandfather's recipes or whatever. Now, I tell you what's gonna hurt them. When they pass a bill that everybody that benefited from every company that benefited from slave labor and that became a company from slave labor has to pay. Now, remember when the brews came out of Egypt, it was the people who they worked for that felt the sudden motivation to repay them for all the free labor that they had gotten from them. So when they passed the bill and all these cotton companies, technology companies, all these companies who's gotten filthy rich, including the corporation called America, off slave labor, has to pay. They say, well, in order for this to work, they'll have to be able to prove, go their identity 3 generations back. So you need to prove that you are a descendant of a slave.
Levi.
Now remember, the poor whites didn't have slaves. Okay, so the companies now who started off just just or we sell cotton. These companies is crazy rich now. So rich they don't even report them in Forbes anymore because you just don't want to rub that kind of wealth in someone's face. It's not seemly. So when it comes out that these companies, this is what's going to make the merchants weep. Because now Egypt went broke because they paid Israel what they owed them. All the powerful people, all the people that benefited off slave labor, paid what they owed. Remember, Abiyah moved them. They was trying to get them plagues up off them. It was serious. Came and paid the people what they owed, and it was the end of Egypt.
Yeah. You got the companies. You also got the people who created the technology that caused the companies to thrive. The cotton gins and all that type of stuff.
A lot of people gonna be held accountable.
Yeah.
A lot of people, you got stars now, famous stars who trying to pay to get the fact that their ancestors owned slaves wiped clean off they records. What's the famous one? Ben Affleck? Was that Ben Affleck?
Don't know.
One of them.
Yeah, that was Ben Affleck who was
Yeah.
Wow.
that show with yeah.
Yeah. So trying to get this information wiped clean, not because they ashamed, because they gonna be held accountable, and everybody gonna pay what they owe with interest. With interest. Everybody gonna pay what they owe.
Family, we're going to go ahead and retire for the evening, but catch us tomorrow. We are going to do the next edition of the priesthood study. 2:00, if y'all would like to tune in to that. And I want to thank y'all for tuning in with us.
Y'all sister can't even keep her eyes open no more. And that's a shame. I can't even pretend like I'm woke.
Love y'all, family, and it's always a blessing.
Is that 3 Eastern, baby, she say?
2 Central.
Yes.
I don't.
Is that
You're
true?
going to have to do your own calculations. I don't want to lie. Police is
Yeah,
right.
it is.
Told her, sis. I'm sorry. I'm being silly. I'm being silly because it's late. So 2 Central is 3 Eastern. Is that what you said? That's correct. Hold on. I appreciate
I say yes. I'm too blessed to be stressed. Nevertheless, I must confess. Yes, this is Project Wake Up Jacob. On the Sabbath we rest and reflect upon his goodness. Because we are guided by the Ruach Kodesh. Yes, whenever I get dressed, yes, I'm dripping Kodesh fresh. Yes, this style fit me down to a T. Because I'm a ruffian, discussing precepts from the holy manual of his constructions. And TZs cover 4 corners of my garment. Greet me with shalom before you step into my carpet. Yah is not the author of confusion. I beg your pardon, but Yahuwah Zabaoth can stop it before it's even thought about. Too blessed to be stressed because I've been blessed by the best. I'm Kodesh fresh.